These are two of the most popular jazz standards. And one of your most basic scales is sufficient to play beautiful solos. It's just a major scale. When I started out playing jazz, I really did not know this. But I also really believe that if you know this will give you a huge advantage in starting playing jazz or going further with playing jazz. Doesn't matter what level you are, the major scale is really important. We'll run through a simple 3-step setup that'll give you the overview and skill set to take major scales around in jazz standards. Through playing and listening to the basic functions, we learn to place these in the jazz standards. And when we get used to match the scale with the jazz standards, we'll start improvising on it. Follow this lesson by reading along in the deep dive manual on Patreon. Download it and have it right next to you. The relation between seeing, hearing and reading along. And when you do this, you'll have a much better understanding of what's happening and how I connect these things. Grab the full transcript, grab the deep dive lesson manual. The download link is just below in the description. So what I said is, when I play blue bossa, I only need one major scale. And of course you need to use the major scale belonging to the song. That's F major. But why is this? Let's look into the scale and see how this works. When we look at the chords of the tune and we divide our scale into chords, we see there are a lot of matches. You can basically match the D minor, the G minor, the E half diminished, the A and the D again with the chords in the scale. And I'll get to that middle part a little bit later. And you're right, we're missing A7. I said A minor 7. I'll also get to that in a little bit. We see that all these chords in the first 8 bars are in the scale. Now we just add the scale from each chord tone. Play the 7 steps up. Now we take these scales, instead of playing the chords on the tunes, we just play the scales on these chords. It's basically reverse engineering. You have the scale, you divide it into chords. You fit the chords to the tune, you fit all the scales to the chords, and then you're there. So when we are playing a solo on any tune, it's not just random notes out of the scale we are playing. We're actually playing the scale tones, fitting the chord. So let's just take a little step in between. I want you to aim for nice melody. Let's train how to play nice melodies just on this D minor chord. To get a really good overview, divide the scale into smaller bits. Let's start with the 7 notes of the scale because we just practiced that. What you see is I'm playing the scale from chord tone to chord tone. I'm starting on the low D going up to that C. So basically playing 7 notes in the scale. That also fits perfectly into our bar. Immediately take this section and add it into the tune. Now I play the scale up from the D to the C and down from the C to the D. Now I have the first 2 bars of a solo. Now we can basically add all these scales into the tune. But let's take it stepwise. Step by step, chord by chord. You need to use the same process for all the chords. That makes it quite easy to do. Let's look at the G minor chord. So the G minor, we have the scale, we have the chord. I fill in the 7 tones from the G to the F, all the chord tones are covered. And then I add the G minor scale into bar 3 and 4. When I'm playing this, I wait for the 2 bars of D minor, then I trade the G minor chord with the G minor scale. Do this until you know the G minor scale very well. Expand. Try playing both the D minor scale and the G minor scale. And now you might think, it's all different scales I have to learn. No, it's not. It's only F major scale, but from different starting points. So you just play the F major scale from all the roots of the chords. The only thing that's changing is what root do I start on. And now you can basically take this through the first 8 bars of the tune. How about that second part as promised you, the E flat part? Let's look into this now. We change the scale, we change the key, it's E flat. Take the E flat scale and learn it very well. Now connect the chords from the scale into the scale so you get a scale on all the chords. And with this, we make a connection to the tune. We put all the scales into this part of the tune, meaning you have an F minor, B flat, E flat in that little middle part. If you look at the whole form, you have the first 8 bars, the D minor, the G minor, the E half diminished, the A7 and the D minor. Then you have the F minor, B flat and the E flat. Then you have the E, A and D again. That's a repetition of the second row. So you have the whole tune now. So now just copy paste everything into the tune and play the scales. But it's boring to play the same. Yes, it is boring to play the same and it's a musical. Let's play some musical stuff instead. We need to divide the scales into more sections, but aim for the cornerstones of the chords. That means playing the target notes, but use the scale. Divide the scale into smaller bits. Let's take a 5-tone bit. This means you're playing from the D to the A, up the scale. Now we take this 5-tone bit, we put this on the D minor, up, down, we put it on the G minor, up, down. Now try doing this by yourself on the whole tune. If you need any help with this, grab the deep dive lesson manual on Patreon, because I have written all this out. I'll get into more examples where I'm using smaller patterns and more patterns. When you're watching the videos and having the lesson manual next to you, you can pause and play the whole example, and this way you really get a better understanding of the full concept. There's lots and lots more examples in the deep dive lesson manual on Patreon, taking you through the full form of Blue Bossa. The deep dive lesson manual is ready for your download. Check it out in the description just below. I promised to explain this C sharp on the A7, and I also want to look into autumn leaves, so let's hurry up. This A minor, the E half diminished A minor, D minor. The A minor does not have a leading tone into the D. I need that half step leading tone. The C sharp to the D, that's a leading tone. That leading tone we get from major. The C sharp is in major. We borrow that C sharp, put it into our A7, and now we have the leading tone. That's the dominant needs a leading tone. We add this into our full progression, and on the A7 we now have a C sharp, sounding like a proper dominant. And this was the very short version of adding dominance into minor. Let's do the key change challenge and change this song into Autumn Leaves. It's not a difficult key change, so stay. Autumn Leaves is an A minor. Our main key is C, because the A is the parallel minor to C. So learn the C major scale well. Learn the chords of the C major scale. Learn the scales over the chords of the C major scale. And then add these scales to the chords of the Autumn Leaves. Remember that now you have a G sharp on that E7. This was extremely fast, but you already know this, so you can do this. If you follow the lesson manual, it's easy to do because it's all there. Now I want to play a more musical solo, so I'm dividing the scales into smaller and more flexible bits. I want a 3-tone bit. Just 3 tones up and down the scale. And I can put these scales in any rhythm I want. The more rhythm I use when I have a limited amount of notes, the more fun it becomes to play. So we don't do any more copy pasting of scales up and down. Now add all the scale bits you can find in the scale, from the D to the F, from the F to the A, and so on and so on. Because when you have all these scale bits, you can start working on your fluency, how these scale bits fits together, and you can play really beautiful solo with just this material. Work on the technique behind it, train these scales in small bits. And the deep dive lesson manual on Patreon really takes you through all these steps. You get all these exercises plus lots and lots more. And both the exercise and the written out solos makes you fluent in maneuvering round the jazz standards just using major scales. The deep dive manual download link is right below in the description. How about taking another step to really get into how major scales can be used in playing solo? This is the video for you to check out. Play music, have fun.